President David. All these accolades for baseball. I happen to be a St. Louis fan, so I'm not thinking it's such a hot series. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today, who really responds to a lot of titles. Our speaker has an undergraduate degree from MIT, graduate degrees from Harvard, so we call her doctor. She is an innovator, creator of Saturday Science Program at the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition, so we call her an innovator. She's very active in local community leadership, having been elected to the Pensacola City Council, so we call her Councilwoman. Around my neighborhood, she is just Annie and Ben's mom. I am pleased to offer for you today Megan Pratt, who is the Executive Director of the Pensacola MESS Hall, to tell us about that program. Megan?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jerry, for inviting me to come today to share about the Pensacola MESS Hall. Jerry actually came to the MESS Hall this summer with his granddaughters, and I think he had a great time. He's actually one of our target demographics. A lot of our visitors are people who have family visiting from out of town, and it's a great place to go when you're stuck with the in-laws sometimes. I'd also like to thank the Downtown Rotary for your support of the Startup Pensacola Weekend, recently hosted at IHMC. That weekend highlighted what innovative people can imagine when given the opportunity and support. As a community, we're at our best when we nurture creativity. So as part of the IHMC family, and as one of the lucky kids who grew up in Pensacola and went away, but was able to come back and create a job and start a family, I thank you for being part of this. When I was at MIT, I learned about many famous scientists and all their great accomplishments. However, it was a science writer, Isaac Asimov, who summed up what I enjoy about science. He said, the most exciting phrase to hear in science, the one that heralds new discoveries, is not, Eureka, I found it, but that's funny. That's funny. That's become a sort of a mantra at the Pensacola MESS Hall. The MESS Hall is a new science museum in Pensacola designed to cultivate the that's funny aspect of scientific discovery, and to give visitors the tools they need to dig a little further and try to understand what's happening in the world around them. I was going to show you a great video we have. It's on our website. I forgot to communicate about tech needs, but it was made by Joe Vincent at Appleyard Agency, and it really shows the enthusiasm and excitement that kids have when they visit. MESS stands for Math, Engineering, Science, and Stuff. We capitalize on interest in STEM education, but with a unique Navytown twist. And no, we don't serve any food. We do have sometimes people come up thinking it's a restaurant, but it's not. Instead of expanding waistlines, we're expanding brains. On a visit to the MESS Hall, visitors usually start with the permanent exhibits. We have wind tubes, a harmonograph, a wall for creating marble runs, a river table where kids can experiment to discover how water shapes the land, the circuits table where you can experiment with electricity. I watch families spend hours at each of these stations. If hands-on means pushing buttons, that's not what we are. But we're more than these big exhibits. The element that makes this museum unique is our MESS kits. We figured if we were going to go with cheesy, we might as well go all out and then it's cool. Visitors order from a menu up at a counter, and the menu changes daily. The list might include fractal painting, chromatography, or tumbling acrobats. They make their selection, they're served on a cafeteria tray, and they carry their order over to their seat. They open the takeout boxes and discover a world of science. Each kit has all the necessary ingredients for a simple activity. As the kids explore, they can delve further into chemistry or physics or engineering. It's fun to watch the families really engage together. Younger kids and older kids working on the same project. Parents learning with their kids. Different families sharing a table and learning together. In many ways, the MESS Hall is a mom-and-pop startup, like what you supported at the Startup Weekend. I'm a scientist, undergrad degree in chemistry, PhD in neurobiology. Most of my college physics has faded, so when I'm working on a new physics mess kit, I often call my husband. He builds robots at IHMC. He helps me refresh my memory over the kitchen table. We often have long conversations debating how the various forces work in this simple-looking activity that we're going to present to third graders. We eventually sum it up in a couple of paragraphs that a third grader can understand, but a high school student will be intrigued by as well. I want that third grader, when she's in high school physics, listening to a lecture about angular momentum and calculating force equations, to suddenly remember that tumbling acrobat she made years ago at the mess hall. Perhaps she'll start asking her teacher more questions, perhaps do more research. Suddenly, physics isn't just a textbook, it's a topic that she is interested in learning more about. I want a middle school kid to experiment at the circuit table and think, hey, I can do this. I can do engineering myself. We're about planting the seeds of scientific knowledge, about creating an attitude of inquiry. That's funny. The mess hall started last summer, 2012, as a trial run, our very own small-scale science experiment. You've often heard of medical trials that they have to stop because the results are so positive they can't in good conscience deny the treatment to other patients. Well, we had to stop as well because it was such a success. It was obvious we needed a bigger place and to expand our offerings since the demand was so high. While we were closed, our board members Scott Salas and Dean Dalrymple joined me in a search for a new building. John Pfeiffer from Beck Properties was a patient guide to, I think, every building in downtown for rent or for sale. We finally settled on a site over on Tarragona Street, just north of the I-10 on-ramp from Chase. Our neighbors are Caldwell Associates, and our landlord's Frank Faber. As we were searching for a new home, we were planning for the next phase. We applied for the Golf Tourism and Seafood Promotion Fund, that's the BP grant. We told them that the mess hall is a great place for out-of-town visitors. The grant reviewers agreed and gave us funds to begin marketing the mess hall to tourists and locals alike. By the way, I'd like to thank Grover for his work on behalf of this community in trying to ensure that we do get the BP support that we need from the settlement. We opened at the end of spring break, spreading the word quietly through Facebook and our mailing list, which you can join either one of those. There's a lot of information about what we're doing. Before long, we had filled most of our spring field trip slots, and we were planning for the summer. During the summer, we were reminded again of the generosity of this community. We planned weekly themes, each with special presentations and workshops, all led by volunteers. For that matter, anytime you come to the mess hall, you're mostly going to meet volunteers, and we appreciate their dedication. And there's always more opportunities. Highlights of the summer were a visit from the man who holds the world record for paper airplane time aloft. Lynn Backus led owl pellet dissections while Christopher Lynn presented a squid dissection. Blue Angel pilots talked to kids about flight and then judged a paper airplane contest. One of the craziest days was a visit from the 501st Legion. That would be Darth Vader, stormtroopers, and R2-D2. They were awesome. We demonstrated the chemistry of fireworks on 4th of July. During the Star Wars Day, we encouraged tinkering by contacting friends at the landfill who brought us a bunch of old electronics that kids took apart, got to figure out how things really work. Now that school's back in session, we're not seeing the 200 people a day we saw for some of these events. Now we do a lot of birthday parties. We hosted the Young Professionals meeting. Special programs like Mess Halloween that we had on Saturday, where Sunil and Lisa Gupta taught anatomy by dissecting eyes and brains and hearts. Yay. I'm glad they did it instead of me, because it would have been good. We're planning some adult nights with adult beverages and science on the side. We had a simple box class for 6 weeks with middle schoolers, and I also was going to show you that video. It's quick. It's on our Facebook page. You ought to check it out. These little, they look like cockroaches, but they zoom around and respond to their environment. And middle schoolers built these. But now the bread and butter of the mess hall is the field trips. Interest is really high. Slots have filled quickly. We've noticed, though, that we're not hitting our whole community. The cost of admission and buses is a challenge for many of our poorer schools. It's no problem for some, like Helen Caro and Navarre and Pea Ridge. Our challenge is to make sure that the Title I schools have a chance to open the world of hands-on science to their kids, but that depends on the generosity of our community. While schools like Global Learning and Oakcrest, which has awesome John Herber, who also taught one of our camps this summer, that was a great opportunity for him. They have good teachers, and that's who you think of when you hear Title I. But it's also Scenic Heights who contacted me, wondering what sort of scholarships we can give. Ferry Pass, Lipscomb. Last week I had the privilege of attending the Science Museum Conference, which I have to say is the best conference. It's a lot more fun than Biophysics Society, which I used to go to. I was re-energized. There are amazing programs at bigger museums that they're willing to share and we can implement here too. In the world of science museums, plagiarism is encouraged. I was also flattered to discover that the Mess Hall is on the radar of these other museums. There's a buzz. On the blogs, Geek Mom named the Mess Hall one of the top 10 children's museums across the country. A program director at the Science Museum of Minnesota, which is a leader in science museums, told me that he'd been mining our website for ideas and pointers about our programs. We're continuing to expand our offerings. We have 2 new exhibits in the works, thanks to our volunteer exhibit building group. Soon we're going to have a computer lab with Lego Mindstorms. The kids will learn the fundamentals of computer programming, but more importantly, learn essential critical thinking skills that will serve them in almost any career they might choose. And I guess that's the real issue. I'm a scientist, but I'm also on the city council. And sometimes my science thoughts get rudely interrupted by community issues. Concerns about how to attract good jobs so that others can return to work and raise their families in this hometown we love. Pensacola has many assets that are a boon for economic development. High-tech workers are drawn to progressive cities with opportunities for recreation like the beaches and waterways. Cities with flourishing arts communities like the Little Theater Symphony and Opera. You guys are like really artsy group, I noticed. A vibrant downtown where they can live and work. A quality university that is engaged in the community. Pensacola has all this, plus a baseball team. But over and over I hear one of the biggest obstacles for economic development is great educational opportunities. And it's not just about schools, where the vast majority of people spend no more than 5% of their lives. It's about a whole host of experiences. I believe that a community that celebrates science and works to enhance science education at all levels can be a magnet for the creative young professionals who will create the kind of jobs we need in this community. The Mess Hall complements the Flight Academy, the Startup Weekend, and fits with the image of IHMC. Before I close, there is one other piece of the Mess Hall equation. While I'm not dreaming up new mess kits, I'm having to come up with new ways to raise money. The constant challenge of nonprofits. Science is sexy, but it's not free. If science museums could turn a profit, Disney would do it. We need businesses, civic clubs, individuals to help underwrite field trips, to sponsor an exhibit, to donate not just to keep us afloat, but to help us move to the next level. And as I mentioned earlier, we also rely on dedication of volunteers, from the people who help at the cash register to those who lead the presentations. We need your continued investment in science programming so that Pensacola may one day be perceived as a hub of science, engineering, and technology, as well as the arts. Not just STEM, but STEAM. The Mess Hall is part of that equation, a community that nurtures minds that are both old and young, a community that welcomes entrepreneurs. With your help, thank you.
Any questions?
What is the target age you're primarily aiming for and seeing as your
Yeah, we usually tell people, we get this call a lot actually. This summer we got calls, what are you? That was a common one, and then what ages. Most of the activities are targeted to upper elementary and middle school kids. We also realize though that not everyone like Jeff Holmes, who's on our board, have quadruplets. You know, they might have kids who are different ages. So we really have things that will appeal to young and older kids. Usually the challenge with the high school kids is the attitude. They're too cool. But if they're not too cool, they have a great time. So, but it's really very much targeted to that upper elementary, middle school kid right now.
You mentioned in your brochure here, admission for a member is free. How do you become a member?
Yes, we have memberships that we sell. Family of 4 is $110 for free admission for a year, discounts on camps. The other neat part about science museums is there is a reciprocal admission program that a lot of people enjoy because it gives you, once you're a member at the mess hall, you get free admission to 270 science museums around the world. So that's a nice thing. My family has used it when we travel and things like that, so it's a nice bonus as well.
What's the range of what it costs to underwrite on field trips?
So I was doing the math recently. Oh yeah, he was wondering how much field trips cost. Basically, a school bus load of kids, which is about all we have a very small facility right now. So what we do is we're only open in the morning when we have a field trip, and we allow one bus load to come at a time, and we cater to the class level and set up materials that are specific to their curriculum. A bus load of kids is about $300 for admission, and then the buses also cost on the other end. So.
Not a question, I'll just point out my kids have been down there volunteering most of the summer and previous summers, and if you haven't been down there, go check it out. It's a tremendous program, they had a blast.
Yeah, we also do high school volunteers. They're a great resource. It's one of the things that many science museums have come to embrace is that high school kids aren't as intimidating in some ways, and people understand that they're learning too, because one of the things we want to reinforce is we're not the expert. We're learning together, and there are things that our visitors teach me all the time.
Thank you so much.